So Louisiana just recently passed a law requiring every classroom that receives public funding to have to display a poster with the Ten Commandments on it. This poster has to be at least 11 inches by 14 inches, so legal pad size, and it has to be in a large, easily readable font. Needless to say, it did not take long for somebody to sue and claim that this is infringement on their personal rights, First Amendment rights. So, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Um, One of the legal things that I have seen somebody say is that the First Amendment basically speaks to freedom of religion, but does not establish a specific religion. And I'd have to strongly disagree with that because it's straight out of the Jewish Bible, also part of the Christian tradition. And the first two commandments are, you shall have no other gods before me, and you shall make no idols or graven images. Well, that right away becomes kind of specific to certain religions and exclusive to others, such as Buddhism and Hinduism and Confucianism and Zoroastrianism and a whole bunch of others. So it absolutely is kind of exclusive. And okay, so I love the Ten Commandments. I believe that they are a great moral code, but our First Amendment rights basically guarantee everybody a freedom of religion, a freedom to believe what they want or what they don't want. And when you put the Ten Commandments in the classroom, you are basically essentially establishing a government-approved religious statement is what you're doing. Yes, there are parts of it that are absolutely just basic moral codes, such as lying and stealing and things like that. But there are absolutely parts of it that are most definitely religious and specific to certain religions. So, in that regard, in my opinion, as a history and government person in college and so forth, I actually did write in college. I did a whole study on the First Amendment and what it is and what it isn't. And there's a lot of people who really don't understand how the First Amendment works. But putting this up does essentially, in my opinion at least, as a non-legal scholar, it does violate the Establishment Clause. It is a government establishment of a religious moral code that they are trying to enforce on everybody. And that is a violation of the Constitution. I fully expect that once this gets up to the Supreme Court, I expect it to get tossed pretty quickly. I actually don't expect much of a actual argument, or honestly, I would be kind of surprised if this doesn't end up with a very large majority on the court tossing it, just because it's such a blatant deal. One of the things I absolutely love about this country is the fact that we do have a freedom to believe what we want. There are some people that will argue that, we were founded on Christian foundations and principles by Christian forefathers, and we were founded on a philosophy espoused by John Locke, who was definitely not a Christian, and several others. In fact, if you look at the Constitution, the Declaration, they're actually straight out quotes from John Locke in it. Locke was not a Christian. The founding fathers, yes, there were some that were Christians. There were some that definitely were not. Thomas Jefferson certainly wasn't. If you look at the way he trimmed down the Bible, he was a deist. Ben Franklin was about as non-Christian as you would get. And several of the others were absolutely not Christian in the way that we think of it. They would speak of providence, but it's not the same thing that we think of as a Christian God. They might use scriptures as a reference to moral codes, but that doesn't mean that they necessarily believed the way that we believe. Hello, puppy. So, this idea that we were a Christian nation, the very beginning, we were established based on a freedom of religion there would be no state church. There would be no state enforcement of religion, because that's what many of them have been running away from in England and in Europe with the Holy Roman Church. They absolutely did not want a state church. You're free to go wherever you want. Now, certain provinces like Rhode Island kind of had a definite predominant church in their region, but the whole basis of the country is still, you're free to believe what you want. You're allowed to disagree with the government. You're allowed to, have a freedom of speech, which that's a whole nother deal. But yes, you are allowed to believe as you desire. So if you want to be a Hindu or a Muslim or a Buddhist or Confucianist or Zoroastrianist, or you want to believe in the Church of the Spaghetti Monster, we have that freedom. And if you insist on trying to, cater to one, you have to cater to all. So in which case, if you want to put up the 7 commandments, if you're really insistent, you're going to have to put up the 7 pillars of Islam. You're going to have to put up certain other provisions from the Jewish Bible. If the Church of Satan wants to put up something, I don't care if you don't like their religion or want to recognize it. They want to believe it, they can. That's part of our freedom. It means you got to post their stuff up. And now I know some people are going, that's the way it works. That's what's made this country great, is we do have that freedom. One of the things that I think we really struggle with today, we really want to try to legislate our religious faith. We want to try to put prayer back in schools. We want to try to put scripture back in schools. This is not why our society has foundered. There's this great idea that, well, as soon as they took prayer out of schools, our society started to collapse. It is not because of prayer in schools. You want to pray in school, you can pray in school. A student has that right. If students want to actually organize and lead prayers, they absolutely may, as long as it does not interfere with instruction time. They want to have a prayer circle at lunchtime, they have that absolute right to do that. Prayer is not, official state mandated prayer in school is not what caused our system, our decay as society. And let's be honest, our crime rates are up, and disrespect to people is up and everything. Where did that actually come from? It's because people aren't living what they claim they believe. Christianity is a religion of the heart, not of the law. And Paul makes a whole huge argument about this in the book of Romans. We obey the law out of gratitude for our salvation, that we should be living it. The problem is we ain't living it. We want to look at what's wrong, look in the mirror. Our hearts are wrong. We're not out there loving. We're not out there serving. We're not out there being, kind to other people and gentle and, helping out in needs. This is where the fault is it's right here. We're not letting the kingdom change our hearts. Instead, we're trying to pull a moral superiority attitude all too often. And that's what's caused this, as we would put it, decay. You want to see society change? Make sure your life is right. Make sure that you are living it, and then go out and show that light to others. And I don't mean getting in their face and, you need to do that. No. I mean, how can I bless you? How can I serve you? Do you need help with something? Go mow their lawn. Just out of the blue. Man, if I get somebody mowing my lawn out of the blue, I'm going to love them. Clean up their yard. Bring dinner over. Go get to know your neighbors. Find ways to reach out and show love without having to preach. Like I said, I love the word St. Francis Assisi. Preach the gospel at all times. And if necessary, use words. When you live the gospel, that's when you will see changes. The Roman Empire was not won over and changed because a bunch of believers got themselves voted into office and rewrote the laws. That is not how the Roman Empire was changed. It was changed because of people who were radically living for Jesus, willingly laying their lives down. When the plagues were sweeping, who was it that was nursing the sick at the risk of their lives? It was the Christians. Who was it that was laying down their lives in the gladiator arenas? It was Christians. Who was it that was willingly sacrificing and giving everything they had to serve the soldiers? It was Christians. If you read, Jesus never proclaimed that his kingdom was of the government. In fact, every time they kept asking him, is now when you're going to bring the kingdom? Is now where you're going to restore Israel? Is now when you're going to rise up the kingdom? And he said, no, my kingdom is a spiritual one. You will never win spiritual battles using weapons of the world. You cannot change people's hearts by writing laws. It won't work. You want to see the Ten Commandments be effective? Make them effective on your heart and in how you live towards others. And you might see those changes you want around you when they change within you. What do you think? I'd love to hear your opinions too. Thanks so much. God bless.